Searched for right now, and Lester, we should point out this search is really going to intensify here. We're going to lose sunlight in Southern California in about 30 minutes.
All right, Miguel Almaguer on the scene there. Let's check in with our justice correspondent, Pete Williams. Pete, any word on who these individuals might be? What leads brought the police to this neighborhood?
No, nothing that we can report with confidence, Lester. We're hearing lots of possibilities, and all of those possibilities point away from the idea that this is some kind of jihadist-inspired terrorism. The early indications seem to be that this building was targeted because of the people who were there. We can't say that definitively, but that seems to be the situation. We know this building was used from time to time for different functions. Different people could rent it out, and the early indications are that this was not a random choice. We can't. They're not certain about that. Those are the ways that the early indicators point, and they point away from terrorism. And there are lots of reasons to think that this is not terrorism. The Justice Department, Homeland Security, FBI apparatus is not responding the way it would be if they thought that this was some kind of foreign-inspired, overseas-inspired jihadist-type terrorism. Now, earlier we were watching the scene where the most action of the afternoon was happening, the scene where an SUV was found by the police. There was gunfire exchanged with the police. We believe that one person was wounded there, one person was killed, and one person, the third person who was in that vehicle, we believe got away. These are still pictures that we took from the helicopter video. You can see the front window of the SUV there catching the light. It seems to have been mostly blown out. This is an overhead view of the windshield of the car with a number of bullet marks in it, and the rear window of the vehicle appears to be shot out entirely. Even the frame of the window seems to be missing. The authorities tell us that at least two of the people who were in the SUV were firing at police through that rear window, and one of them got away, Lester, and that's the person that's being searched for so urgently right now tonight.
And we're looking now at a live picture that appears to be a church where police are massing, perhaps staging their search from outside there as they work through this neighborhood. And again, you see the waning light there in Southern California. The search intensifies. We noted 17 people were hurt in today's deadly massacre. We want to go to Morgan Radford. She's outside Loma Linda Medical Center. What can you tell us about those who were hurt?
Good evening, Lester. Well, right now we are standing outside of Loma Linda, where a bomb threat was just called in within the past 2 hours and then just lifted within the past few minutes. As you can imagine, this is a chaotic scene as choppers are leaving the hospital and emergency vehicles are coming in. As they're coming in, the families are also coming in, waiting to find out anything they can on their loved ones.
The emergency situation has shut this community down. 70 schools on lockdown, security surrounding area hospitals, courts, public offices closed. For families, the not knowing is agonizing.
I can't think. I just can't think. I just want my sister.
Fear over the fate of loved ones at or near the Inland Regional Center.
I've been trying to call her and she won't respond.
Alex Johnson hasn't heard from his daughter, who was supposed to be at the center and might still be inside.
She helps out with the Red Cross, and she also is disabled with cerebral palsy. It's terrible. It's terrible. I have no words to describe it. It's terrible.
For most, they didn't even know if their loved ones were among the victims.
We know that this is a human incident, and this is a tragedy. And we know we've got a lot of folks out there that are very concerned and very worried about their loved ones that may have been at that facility today.
But there was some relief.
My daughter's out of the building and she's safe. She immediately went and hid in a back office somewhere with some other people, and they locked themselves in and they hid. Relieved, but sad for the others.
Luis Gutierrez was one of the lucky ones. His wife made it out unharmed.
I'm just gonna hug her.
An officer was just brought here to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, but injuries that were related to today's shooting. Meanwhile, we just spoke to a security guard here who's actually manning the entrance where the families are coming to the hospital, and she spoke to 3 or 4 members of different families, one of whom was a young man who was just waiting to hear anything he could on the condition and the whereabouts of his uncle, Lester.
All right, Morgan, thanks very much. We've been watching the picture on the right side of your screen. Police outside appears to be a church parking lot. Miguel Almaguer, can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, Lester, the drama here still unfolding. We know police officers were at this scene earlier today, a few hours earlier today. We know they were sweeping through this area, and now they are back again for a second time. Clearly, they are following some type of lead or some type of tip that is taking them back there. These officers, you can see the man on the far left with his gun drawn. The other officers look fairly relaxed as they sweep this church for a second time, Lester. This is just a few blocks away from where that SUV was riddled with gunfire, where we're told 2 suspects were taken down and a third now on the loose. Of course, police have said all along that these officers are the suspects are heavily armed. Now you can see officers pushing in beyond this gate here as they clear this area. So officers are using extreme caution. We know that there was talk that the suspects may have had some type of explosive device. Officers sweeping this area, taking no chances. And again, Lester, as you mentioned a short time ago, it's quitting time for many people in this area. Hundreds are trying to get back into their neighborhoods, but effectively, this neighborhood is locked down. Hundreds of officers pouring into the region from all across this area. Police helicopters overseen here. We can hear them hovering across the area. You can be certain they have spotters in the air looking for any type of suspect. You can see the officers here with a search dog continuing to move in. Lester, this seemed very, very active. The search will continue, it appears, for some time.
And I know we're going to hear from police at a news conference again very shortly, but in the last news conference, did they give any inkling as to what tip led them to the place where they encountered that SUV and the suspects?
They have not given us any information about where that suspect may be or why they are going to certain neighborhoods or certain homes. You can see that the officers are moving together in groups, sweeping through the area. Typically, they will do a grid search here, go from house to house, neighborhood to neighborhood, sweeping across this area, and then they will often double back to where they were and check that area again, Lester. So that may be what we're seeing here now. Police will only tell us that that third suspect got out of that vehicle on foot and fled into a residential neighborhood. That is what has launched this massive manhunt just a few blocks from where we are tonight, Lester. We can hear the police choppers overhead. You can see the dogs on the ground looking for possible scents as these officers sweep through the neighborhood.
I guess the feeling is they've got the area, the larger perimeter sealed off to give them a clearer idea of where this suspect may be.
Yeah, they certainly have sealed off the area in terms of any kind of traffic going in, foot traffic, cars moving into the area. I guess one of their concerns is going to be out here are folks that were at home when this all took place. They have told everyone in this region to shelter in place, to lock their doors, shut their windows, and to stay inside bathrooms and other areas where there are no windows potentially. So officers moving through this area, sweeping through the area, they'll canvass this community until they feel it's safe. But Lester, there's been no timetable given here. Officers clearly focused on the search right now.
This is, for some people, may find this reminiscent of what we saw in Watertown, Massachusetts, in the search for the Boston bombing suspects, the kind of tense nature of a neighborhood essentially on lockdown. People inside their homes, perhaps watching local news coverage. It's certainly wall-to-wall television in Los Angeles. People watching the police move through this neighborhood methodically, trying to get a lead on the suspect. Miguel, is there any indication this person might have been wounded?
There's no indication yet from officers. Certainly that SUV was riddled with gunshots. It sounds as though 2 of the suspects were wounded or certainly at least down. So you may, obviously police may have engaged that third suspect before he was able to get away on foot. And Lester, as you can see here, these are fairly large properties. These are not very small homes. So when they canvass this area, when they go neighborhood to neighborhood, they have to sweep through the trees in this area. They have to sweep through the front yards, the backyards, and oftentimes they'll even enter homes as they sweep through this area. It's a large community here, so that could take quite some time.
All right, Miguel, as we watch this play, let me bring in Lenny DePaul, a former member of the U.S. Marshals. Lenny, I had the occasion to go out with one of the fugitive task force and watch their operations, and I wondered then and I wonder now, what should people inside their homes be doing, knowing that a police officer may come snooping in your backyard or working his way down the side? What should people do to protect themselves in a situation like this?
Well, I mean, someone had said it earlier with respect to, anybody that is at home, and again, it's 5 o'clock, they're close to it out there. There's a lot of abandoned, or not abandoned, but a lot of unoccupied homes out there. So if this individual, this suspect is at large still and gotten into one of those homes, that could be an issue in itself. But the public needs to remain vigilant. I mean, they see, hear anything at all. call the authorities, call the professionals, let them do what they need to do. However, what I'm worried about is why were these three suspects still together? They hit this place very quick. There was witnesses that said that they casually walked out, got into an SUV that within a couple of miles of the first target, but they're looking at something else. That's anyone's question. So from a law enforcement perspective, you got to keep that all in the back of your head. So again, with respect to the public, keep your eyes and ears open, put your lights on. It's getting dark. If you are at home, lay low. If you have a basement, get